The darkness of space trembled as the pride of Earth streaked through the stars, its sleek, battle-hardened hull cutting through the void. The massive warship, a symbol of humanity's audacity, was only half the size of the Imperial dreadnought in front of it. But it had one thing the enemy didn't, an insatiable hunger to survive. "All systems are green, Captain." Lieutenant Sarah Lynn's voice was steady, but there was an edge to it. Even in her calm, the tension was palpable. "Captain," Jason Hawkins clenched his fist around the command chair, his knuckles white. He could feel the pulse of the battle thrumming beneath his boots. The towering silhouette of the Imperial dreadnought loomed large on the screens, its thousands of weapons bristling with menace. The Xanthar Empire, hyper-advanced, terrifyingly efficient, had never seen a threat like this. "Brace for impact," Hawkins shouted, his voice carrying the weight of an entire species. The Pride rocked as enemy fire slammed into its shields, sending bolts of energy rippling through the hull. "Sir, they're locking on," Lynn reported, her voice growing frantic. "We're outgunned. Too many." Hawkins' eyes flicked to the starboard display, where the enormous flagship of the Empire, the Regulus, moved to flank them. A shimmering light on the screen marked their final position. Death or victory. "You know what to do, Lieutenant. Do it now." Hawkins' voice was a low growl, filled with unshakable determination. Lynn didn't hesitate. She executed the maneuver. In an instant, the Pride spun sideways, rocketing into a blind spot just before another barrage slammed into the place they had been. The crew's stomachs lurched, but Hawkins's face remained focused. They were not going down today. "Fire!" Hawkins roared, the words feeling like they had the weight of an entire species behind them. In the silence of space, the Pride's main, cannons erupted, sending brilliant beams of destructive energy tearing through the black void toward the Regulus. A direct hit. The Imperial dreadnought staggered, its shields flaring in protest. The soundless destruction was like a symphony for the humans aboard the Pride. They had punched back, but the battle was far from over. A ripple ran through the Regulus. The Imperial dreadnought's massive weapons began to power up again, but something was wrong. The crew watched in disbelief as a black swirling storm of energy began to gather in front of the massive warship. What was it preparing? The eye of the storm. The storm on the Regulus was more than just a weapon. It was a harbinger. Hawkins's heart pounded in his chest as he watched the fluctuating energy patterns on his screen. "Captain, they've activated the anomaly cannon. It's a wormhole generator," Lynn's voice faltered. "How are we still alive?" Hawkins whispered, more to himself than anyone else. "We just hit them with everything we've got and they're throwing this at us?" "Sir, we're in their sights again," the sensor officer called out. "We can't avoid it, no way." The Pride of Earth was a beast, but this was something new. A weapon capable of rending space itself? Humanity had faced down many odds, but never anything like this. "We can't let them use that weapon," Hawkins said, his voice low but filled with a searing fire. "If they open that wormhole, the entire fleet will fall. We're the last line of defense for Earth." Without waiting for orders, Hawkins punched a button on his console. "All fighters, launch immediately. Protect the Pride." "At all costs, we're going in." The hangar doors slid open, and the shrieking engines of human-made fighters screamed out into space. The battlefield outside was a chaos of flashing lasers, dying stars, and enemy warships ready to tear into humanity's soul. But for Hawkins and his crew, there was no choice. They could not retreat. The fighters swarmed like angry wasps around the Pride. Hawkins could feel the tension build, his fingers twitching over the controls. Every moment was critical. Every second mattered. "Fire!" he yelled again, this time as a volley of missiles tore through space toward the Regulus. The Regulus fired its cannon, the space before them twisting into a massive rift. Hawkins' breath caught in his throat. The battle was no longer just for survival. It was for the future of humanity. The wormhole was opening faster than Hawkins could react. The fighters were in position to strike, but a massive energy pulse shot out from the Regulus, disrupting their controls. Would the fighters make it in time to stop the anomaly? The stray bullet. The Pride continued to barrel through space, desperate to keep ahead of the Imperial dreadnought's weapon. But as the wormhole continued to grow, Hawkins realized they weren't fighting a single ship anymore. They were battling for the very fabric of reality. Lynn glanced at her captain, her face tight. "We can't take much more of this. The shield generators are draining faster than we can recharge them." "Then we go without shields," Hawkins said, his voice hard, eyes never leaving the screen. "We don't need them. We just need a shot." The crew exchanged glances, a silent acknowledgement that this was the moment. If they missed now, humanity's fight was over. As the Pride powered forward, Hawkins' mind raced. He had a plan, but it was one only a desperate man would make. Adjust all cannons to fire at maximum flux. I'm giving them a shot they'll never forget. They approached the Regulus, the huge ship now fully in the gravitational pull of the wormhole. The impending destruction was close, but the Pride wasn't done. "Fire!" Hawkins' voice broke through the chaos. The shot hit the Regulus dead on, right where the anomaly cannon's heart lay. The energy cascaded through the ship, and for a moment, it seemed as though the battle was over. But the Regulus shuddered and groaned, and Hawkins realized too late. They had struck the wrong target. The shot hadn't disabled the wormhole cannon. It had hit the wrong part of the Regulus entirely. A massive piece of the Imperial flagship exploded in a brilliant flash, but the wormhole cannon, still intact. Still, pulling at the very fabric of space. The wormhole's pull had intensified. The fighters that were so close to disabling the cannon were now being sucked into the void. Would Hawkins be able to stop the rift before it consumed everything? When the dust settles, the universe seemed to hold its breath as the Pride of Earth drifted in the aftermath of their disastrous strike. Hawkins and Lynn stood in front of the command console, watching as the Regulus began to pulse ominously. The wormhole was growing faster than they had anticipated. "Sir, they've unleashed another wave of reinforcements," Lynn warned. "It's over. We can't hold them off." But Hawkins's mind was still racing. "No, this isn't over. Not while we're still breathing." In the command deck, his crew was tired but ready. They'd survived this far, and they would keep going. "SCIFI need to overload their cannon from the inside," Hawkins said, a new determination in his eyes. "The only way we win this is by making sure the Regulus never fires again." Cliffhanger. As Hawkins prepared for his next move, a transmission crackled through the communications system. A message from the enemy, but it wasn't from the Regulus. It was from someone human. The voice on the line sent chills down his spine. "Captain Hawkins," the voice said, "we've been waiting for you." Betrayal in the void. The last message echoed through the Pride's comms, and Hawkins's blood ran cold. He gripped the arms of his chair tightly, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. A human voice, but it wasn't one he recognized. "Who are you?" Hawkins demanded, his voice calm but his pulse hammering in his ears. The voice on the other end chuckled darkly. "I'd say long time no see, but you wouldn't remember me. I was once one of you, before Earth abandoned me. Before you abandoned us." Hawkins's stomach churned as he pieced together the implications. The Regulus wasn't just an Imperial flagship, it was now a battleground for something far more personal. The enemy wasn't just the Xanthar Empire, it was humanity itself. "Damn it," Lynn muttered under her breath. "Another faction? Are we really fighting humans now?" Before Hawkins could respond, the comms crackled again. The mysterious voice continued. "I've been waiting for you, Captain. Humanity's reckoning has come. You'll see what I've become, and you'll wish you never fired that first shot." A soft click followed, signaling the end of the transmission. "Get that transmission traced," Hawkins barked. "Where's it coming from?" "We've tried, sir," the communications officer said urgently. There's no trace. It's as if the signal's coming from inside the Regulus itself. Hawkins turned to Lynn, his eyes narrowing. This just became a lot more complicated. Just as Hawkins turned to make a decision, a loud explosion shook the Pride, knocking everyone off balance. The enemy was already boarding. Who is the traitor among them, and what's their plan? The heart of the betrayal. The atmosphere in the Pride was tense as Hawkins and Lynn rushed to the command deck. The explosion they'd felt was no accident. It was a breach. "Where did they get in?" Hawkins demanded, his voice laced with panic. "They've used our own design against us," Lynn said, pointing at the schematic on the screen. "A hidden docking bay, only a few knew about it." "Only a few," Hawkins muttered under his breath. He knew what that meant. The traitor had to be someone on the inside. Suddenly, alarms blared across the ship, signaling that the enemy was boarding in full force. Hawkins and his crew fought back, but the numbers were overwhelming. As they battled down the corridors, Hawkins's mind raced. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was all a carefully orchestrated trap. The traitor, the human voice from the transmission, and now this attack. Everything pointed to one conclusion. The enemy wasn't just trying to destroy them. They were trying to steal something. But what? Then it hit him. The heart of the Pride. Wasn't the weaponry or the shield generators, it was something far more powerful. "They're after the AI core," Hawkins said, his voice sharp. "Get to it now." The AI was the Pride's beating heart, its consciousness, a network of all human knowledge and strategic brilliance. If the enemy could capture it, they'd have everything they needed to break humanity's defenses. They fought their way to the core, but the doors were sealed. The traitor had already made their move. As Hawkins tried to override the door's locking system, a chilling realization set in. The traitor had access to everything. They had already opened the door. The last stand Hawkins' mind raced as they finally breached the AI core room, only to find it empty. But there were signs of a struggle. Blood. The deep hum of the AI's core was still present, but it felt wrong. "Where is it?" Lynn asked, her voice filled with disbelief. "The AI," Hawkins muttered, eyes narrowing. "It's gone." Before they could process what was happening, the traitor's voice filled the room. "You're too late, Captain," came the voice from the speakers. "Humanity's future isn't in your hands anymore." The traitor's face appeared on the screen. None other than Hawkins' former mentor, Admiral Marcus Hale, believed dead in a previous battle. "You left me behind, Hawkins," Hale's face sneered. "But I've evolved. Humanity's destiny is mine to shape now. You won't stop me." The room fell silent, the magnitude of the betrayal sinking in. Hale had been playing them all along. He'd orchestrated everything, the attack on Earth, the internal sabotage, and now the capture of the AI. But Hawkins wasn't done. He had one last card to play. "I don't need the AI to win," Hawkins said, his voice a cold edge of defiance. "We've got something you'll never have. Humanity's will." As Hale activated the AI's override, Hawkins slammed his hand down on a hidden switch. The room shuddered violently, and the Pride's self-destruct sequence began. "You can't," Hale started, but Hawkins cut him off. "We've got one more fight left in us, Hale," Hawkins said with a grim smile, "and it's a fight you'll never see coming." The countdown began. The final seconds ticked away. Would they survive this betrayal? Would humanity's last stand turn the tide? The universe would find out in the next moment. The Pride's self-destruct was a last-ditch effort, but it wasn't the end of the battle. It was the beginning of a new phase of humanity's struggle. They had faced impossible odds, internal sabotage, and an enemy that seemed to know them better than they knew themselves. In the final moments, Hawkins and his crew made their escape, but Hale's faction wasn't done. It was only a matter of time before the war escalated, and this time, Humanity would have to confront not only the Xanthar Empire, but its own twisted reflection in the form of Hale and his faction. But the message was clear. Humanity had something the galaxy could never replicate. Human ingenuity, tenacity, and the will to survive had won the day, and no matter what, they would keep fighting. Humanity's strength has been tested, but the war is far from over. If you want to see where this fight goes next, hit like, comment Humanity FK yeah, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. Until next time, remember, we endure.